everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Los Angeles Indonesian Film Festival. My name is Yafi Fairuz, and I will be your host for today. So, with this current pandemic, there will be no live event. Fortunately, Endah Rejeki and her team have decided to continue this annual event by having the program via online. We'll have a series of discussions and as well as screenings. And with that being said, in today's program, we'll have a discussion on the future of daily life on movie sets. So let's take this opportunity to thank our guest speakers. We have Scott Sakamoto, Riri Riza, Susanti Dewi, Ernest Prakasa, and Joko Anwar. Our partners also need to be mentioned for their endless support. We have the Indonesian Consulate of Los Angeles, UCLA Center for Southeast Asian Studies. We have USC School of Cinematic Arts. We have also the Indonesian Bruin Student Association. And lastly, Premias Nasional. Okay? Before we move on, I also want to thank Creative Box as our live streaming partner for this wonderful event. Okay? A quick reminder, if you have any questions during the discussion, drop your question in the comment section. Okay? Now, this event is moderated by two of my very good friends, Andika Anasatria and Nadi Hairi. With that being said, let's welcome Mr. Saud Krisnawan as the Consul General of the Indonesian Consulate in Los Angeles with his opening remarks. Enjoy the show. Bye.
Good evening Los Angeles dan selamat pagi di Jakarta. Committee of the Los Angeles Indonesia Film Festival, our speakers panel of highly esteemed film industry professionals, Riri Reza, Joko Anwar, Susanti Dewi, Ernest Prakasa, and Scott Sakamoto. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to be here with you all through virtually. The current global crisis is almost incomparable to any event in our history, one that is affecting not only the human health, but also our social fabric, our economy, our education, and way of life in general. The new normal comes with new rules, new methods, and new tools, which present us with a unique opportunity to redo, reinvent, and refresh our conducts to be even more sustainable and beneficial. Everyone and everything are affected, including the global film industry. I have been looking forward to this program, as I'm curious to know industry experts' insights on the future of films. During these unusual times, I believe many have resorted to watching movies as a way to be entertained, to escape, or perhaps for healing. You would also realize that there are now plenty of Indonesian movies available online, featured in international streaming services like Netflix. This should add confidence in Indonesian filmmakers to keep working on innovations and inspirations for the future of our film industry. These unprecedented circumstances will require the tireless support from everyone rooting for Indonesian cinema to thrive and be more competitive in the international stage. We need to keep making movies, financing movies, marketing them, or simply pay the streaming fee to watch them. It is our duty as an Indonesian community to continue to support our national film industry even further, especially in this new normal. In closing, I would like to applaud the Committee of Los Angeles Indonesia Film Festival for working on this initiative in the heart of the global movie industry, Hollywood. My sincere gratitude to the speakers. You have very important roles in paving the road forward and upward. Hopefully, the current challenges will only get you to be more creative. Let's keep the conversations going, followed by significant actions in promoting the works of current Indonesian filmmakers, while inspiring future Indonesian filmmakers. Thank you and enjoy the rest of this program.
Hello, everyone. My name is
Hello.
Nadi. The person next to me is Andika. Say hello, Andika.
Hi, Andika. Hi, Nadi. Hi, I'm Andika.
Before we begin, we'd like to say thank you to Mr. Saud Krisnawan as the Consul General of the Indonesian Consulate here in Los Angeles for his support and his remarks. And I would also like to say thank you to Yafi for the introduction. It was such a great introduction. And on behalf of the Los Angeles Indonesian Film Festival, I would like to welcome everyone and thank you for joining in to our discussion, program number 1. And as Yafi had mentioned earlier, the topic of the discussion is the future of daily life on movie sets. As we all may experience around the world, the COVID-19 pandemic has changed everyone's livelihood, and the movie industry is no exception to this. To prevent the spread of the virus, countless motion picture projects had been shelved indefinitely, be it the production phase or the release. Now, with the introduction of the new normal, how will each filmmakers adapt to the new variables in this uncharted territory? In our discussion today, we have the amazing filmmakers in the panel, not only from Indonesia, but also from Los Angeles. It is a tremendous honor for us to introduce you to Scott Sakamoto. Hello, Scott. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I just want to say what an honor it is to be a part of this film festival and on this panel. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. And the second panelist is Susanti Dewi. Hello, Mbak. How are you?
Hello. Hi, Nadi. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to join this event. It's really an honor. Thank you.
You're welcome. The third one, we have Riri Riza. Hello, Mas Riri.
Halo,
How are you?
good, thank you. Nadia Andika, terima kasih. Nice to be here.
Awesome. And the fourth one, we have Ernest Prakasa. Hello, Maya.
Hello, guys.
How are you?
Great. I'm great. Pleasure to be here along with this team guest. Can't wait for our discussion.
Awesome. Thank you. And the last panelist, we have Joko Anwar.
Hi Nadia Andika.
Hello.
Hi everyone.
Hi, how are you? So thank
I'm
you
good.
everyone for tuning in. So thank you for everyone for joining in. For everyone at home watching, if you want to know more about the panelists, go ahead and go to our social media accounts. We have all the information there. And to the panelists, thank you again so much for being here to be able to share your knowledge and wisdom. And then I hope everyone's doing well and staying safe. And before we proceed, I would like to explain the format of our discussion. So our discussion will be divided in two parts. The first part will be a panel discussion and will be moderated by Andika. And the second part will be a Q&A session with the live audience and will be moderated by me. So without further ado, I would like to invite Andika to continue with the discussion. Go ahead, Andika.
All right. Thank you, Nadi, for the introductions, and thank you all the filmmakers for accepting the invitation for these discussions. Before I started, I would like to encourage all the speakers to give additional comments, providing inputs, and so on, because this is a discussion, not a workshop or a seminar. All right, I think let's get started. I'm going to ask the general questions to all the speakers. The first question is, what was the last film project you were working on prior to the pandemic? and how significant is the impact to your film productions? Maybe Scott, can you answer first the question?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the project that I was working on in March when the pandemic hit Los Angeles and we all were asked to stay at home is Raya and the Last Dragon. As you know, animation is a very long process, and so I've been working on this film for just about 2 years now. And luckily, thanks to a lot of collaboration with the studio, some creative problem solving, and an amazing technology team, we've been able to keep moving forward on the project with very little, very little drag or lag in production. So very fortunate that we're able to continue.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Scott. Mbak Susanti?
Okay, for me, actually, when the pandemic hits Jakarta, I was at my final step to set up IDN Pictures because actually IDN Pictures is a new entity from my previous film company and into this IDN Media Group. So in March, I was planning the pipelines, and when the pandemic hit, so I know that our plan would be shift. So actually, I have no postponed projects, but the pipeline is very impacted.
Okay, so you didn't have any project before, but you started the new production company, ITM, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mas Ernest, how about you?
Actually, I'm working right now as we speak. I'm one of the producers for the up and coming horror comedy Ghostwriter 2 with Starvision as the studio. And it's quite an experience working in the pandemic. Everything is different. Everything is a bit more complicated. We have protocols. We have less people working together at the same time on set. We have more space for talents because they cannot be put in together and so forth. It's quite a very challenging experience for me, but I think it's necessary. We cannot expect less than this, I guess, and we should do this at least. I believe others are even doing even further in their protocols, and I see that we are trying to do our best and still working, still making ends meet for the crew, for the talents, and moving on so that once the cinemas open, we have something to release to the public for the Indonesian movie lovers.
All right, okay. So it's quite challenging for you, but you're hanging in there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Bang Joko, how about you, Bang?
Yes, I was preparing a film that I was going to direct myself. We started the pre-production in January. We were slated to start production in April. And at the same time, I was also one of the producers of two superhero films at the Bumi Langit Cinematic Universe. So 3 projects were going before the pandemic, and we stopped working. I think it was very early in March or late February, but we have resumed the film that I was going to direct. We resume July 1st, and we're going to shoot that one in 2 weeks. But the other 2 films that I was producing, they will not resume until October for pre-production.
Oh, okay, thank you. And Mas Riri, how about you, Mas?
Yes, I think it's about the same as Joko. I have a project that slated to be start pre-production in April. I'm supposed to start shooting sometimes in September, August, September. But that one, I think it's going to be postponed, maybe sometimes the first quarter next year to start pre-production. So at the same time, I started development of another story that we hope to be a more feasible production in the next 6 months.
Okay,
That's what I
hopefully,
think.
but okay, thank you. And the second question is, how will the new normal enforce a change in the way you work on set? Does the change necessarily mean you have to compromise some aspects of quality? Maybe for this one, Mas Ernest, you can answer first.
Yeah, we're trying hard not to compromise the quality, which means bigger budget, which is bad news for the executive producers because one of the things we try to manage is the working hours. We all know that Indonesian film has a very harsh working hours, something that we are trying hard to contain because in this pandemic we need to keep everyone healthy. So we're trying to give more. We're going through this route even before the pandemic, actually, to be very honest. But we're trying to enforce it even further in the pandemic. We try to limit the working hours very strictly, and that means longer production days, which means bigger budget. Well, but before we resume the project during the break, we already talked about this. So the producers are very aware of the consequence of doing the shoot in this situation. So yeah, that's one of the biggest issue in I think in shooting right now because the budget will be very much affected.
Okay, because you mentioned about the budget and you mentioned about executive producer, maybe Mbak Santi, you can answer this question.
Okay. Well, uh, I think as a film producers or filmmakers, uh, our solution to this situation is not into the quality, but how we as producers have to have a method or some procedures that to keep our crew and talents secured because we know the situation is very hard for everyone. We don't have the cure and all, so I think for me quality is not something to compromise, but more into how we find a solution to keep continuing executing the production with more responsibles and apa ya needed rules and methods. I think for me, quality is not something to compromise. I think.
Okay,
And of course, for additional budget is something it's like inevitable. I mean, yeah, it's something that we have to face and we have to find a solution, but not in the quality
no
side
quality.
to
Okay,
compromise. Yeah,
okay. So you will face the extra budget, but you won't compromise the quality, right?
yeah. I think it's something that we have to think the solution. I think.
Okay. Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mbak Santi. Bang Joko, how about you, Bang?
Yeah, we have accommodate some adjustment needed to shoot. Uh, we have made some calculation, and I think the budget went up to 10% of the initial production budget because we have to provide whatever needed to follow the health protocol during this pandemic.
Yeah.
The standard things should be the washing stations for your hands and hand sanitizers, disinfectants, and of course, like Ernest said, we have to extend our production days. We used to shoot in Indonesia. It's very usual to shoot 16 hours a day or maybe even 17 hours a day, but we limit ourselves to 14 hours during this pandemic a day. So before the film that I was going to shoot, um, we have 28 days of production days, but now it's up to 35 production days. So we have to really make sure that the crew is healthy, and we have to minimize as low as possible for the risk of the spreading of the virus.
Okay, yes. So safety and healthy protocol is very important on the set, ya Bang?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Bang. Mas Riri, how about you, Mas?
Yeah, since, like I said, I'm in the stage of development and writing, and this is something also we start to think of like strategy of how to run, of how to conceptualize a project that also somehow more tolerable to the recent situation. I did some films that actually shot in 14 days in a very rural and isolated location, working with very minimal crew and only a few cast. So in a way, we also look for possibilities of doing those kind of project that is actually can be a little bit less complicated to do during this time of pandemic. Definitely procedure protocol of the health protocol will apply, but at the same time also this is more to our kind of playgrounds, you know, because Miles is also doing apart from doing a big studio scale sort of film, we also do a little projects more independent and more isolated kind of thing. So that may be a way out.
All right, thank you, Masuri. And lastly, Scott.
Yeah, you know, it's a different world right now, and it has a lot of challenges. I think for me, the reason that I chose animation, what I love about animation is that it's this ultimate team sport. You know, there's 300 to 400 people working on these movies at any given time, and working within your team and your department, and then working cross-departmentally with those people in the building. That's all working together, brainstorming. In the Walt Disney Animation Studios, we have a big area in the middle of the building that's made for people to congregate and talk and have those hallway conversations. And so in this world, in the pandemic, while we're all at home separately, it's it's a different energy, and it just is a different type of collaboration that we're able to do. And so one of the challenges that we've faced is, in the story department, in the story room, it's such a creative area to brainstorm and feel the energy of people. And I think without, when you're looking at different faces and boxes on screen, it's just a different energy, and it's a little bit more exhausting. So it's making sure that we're giving our filmmakers the time to recharge their batteries so they're able to continue to make a really great product, and empower everyone to figure out what are good ways creatively to have these conversations and still work collaboratively together.
All right, okay. Thank you, Scott. Thank you to all the speakers for answering our general questions. You have provided us with some context and background information regarding the projects you have been working on and how the pandemic has affected your work. Now, we will be moving on and we will be asking specific questions to each panelist. Our first question is directed to Scott. Hi, Scott, again. The question is, what are obstacles of working remotely, and are there any surprising of the benefits of doing so?
I think I spoke a little bit to some of the obstacles that you face is that it's just a little bit more, it's less personal, and you don't get that tactile feel of working with the team. And I think that's something that I personally miss, and I think it's something that does make creative discussions a little bit more challenging. The benefit on a very personal level for me is that I get to be home with my 6-year-old son every day. And so, when we were ramping up on this movie, it's intense, and we're all in, and we're so focused on telling a great story and making a great movie. And not that changes, but I'm not at home as much. And
Okay.
the fact that I'm able to be home with my son all day now is a real blessing.
Real blessing, yeah. So,
True.
you miss the human interactions with your team, but you can spend more time with your children at home, right? Yeah. So there's
Yeah,
a
exactly.
pros and cons. All right. Thank you, Scott. The next question is for Bang Joko Anwar. Hello, Bang.
Hello.
Okay. The question is, superheroine movie, for example, the upcoming movie Sri Asih, usually involves high contact interactions and lots of background actors. How do you ensure safety protocols while at the same time not compromising the characteristic of a sci-fi movie?
Yeah, we're talking about putting all the cast and stunt people into quarantine. So before they start rehearsing for the fighting scenes, they will be put into a place together, whether in a hotel or someplace that they can use for accommodation. So before they stay in quarantine, they're going to be tested, make sure they negative from the virus, and then they're going to stay there throughout the process of trainings and fight choreography exercises. And yeah, that's one of the solutions that we came up with. And then during the shooting, we were actually going to use a lot of extras, but we have found alternatives for the scenes that used to use a lot of extras. For instance, for my superhero film last year, in one scene we use 1,000 people during a battle scene, but we certainly cannot use it anymore, cannot do it anymore. So we have looked for an alternative for scenes that can be shot using less people but have similar impact for the scene. Yeah, those
Okay.
two.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Bang. Before I started, I want to let you guys know that if you want to give additional comments or you want to give additional input to other speakers, you are more than welcome to do so. Okay. Thank you. And the next question is for Mas Riri. Hello, Mas. Yes. The question is, since your entrance to Indonesian cinema, you have been known for your spectacular ideas on movie productions. I understand that you have a few film projects that are currently on hold due to the pandemic. How do you prepare yourself for those film productions? For example, are you taking advantage of this time to make adjustments to the scripts or anything else?
Yeah, it's very interesting actually. I never really thought about this. For one of for the script development, for the final stages of script development, for example, we did our online reading for a few times already, which is like a table reading, but everybody is doing it in their own table at home. So it's also it's a new experience. In a way, it's very environmentally friendly. It's less carbon trace. People can enjoy the time at home, and it can become very efficient. Um, at the same time, also, I started to rethink about how we're going to deal with locations of the film, because doing it on location with estimated 150 to 200 people traveling can be too complicated. Uh, we are thinking about also maybe this pandemic will affect economy of the film also. So we started to strategize and how to so that's basically it. I think also at the same time I have lots of chances to spend time with the family while still working. I have time to do a little bit more close personal and intimate discussions with my fellow, main team, because we started to operate from our office, but there are only 5 people per day, and so it also affects lots of intensity and the quality of discussions that we do during our brainstorming. So yeah, that's as much as we can do at this stage.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mas. Thank you, Mas Terry. And Mas Ernest?
Yep.
Yes. You announced going on hiatus to make your own movie until the end of the year. Do you feel that this hiatus has limited your ability to use your momentum that you have built during the past 5 years of accelerated movement in filmmaking? And how do you gear yourself up for the new normal?
Yeah, I've been releasing films every December since 2015, and 2020 would be a pause to that. Funnily enough, I planned on doing hiatus, like a sabbatical, after releasing like 5 films in 5 year ends straight. But I was I my concern was exactly like you asked, like, is it going to break the momentum, is it like going to hurt me in my career in a way so that it would hinder me in the future. But so I decided to just keep going, and then this whole thing happened, so I rethink about my plan, and I talked to my producer and said, I think this would be a good time for me to at least take a short break from writing and directing and come back stronger next year. But I'm still continuing my work as a producer for 2 projects, actually. The first one is what we are shooting right now, The Ghost Rider 2. It's a sequel from last year's movie. And the other one is a spin-off for Imperfect, my movie last December, which is released on Netflix last month. It's going to be adapted into a series for an OTT platform, for a streaming platform. And we are prepping that now, and we're going to shoot in September. So we're really hoping that things are really slowly getting back to normal ish, because it's really concerning for me personally. I'm really paranoid when every time we're on set, where I'm like looking at everyone. Are they wearing their mask? Are they wearing it correctly, or are they wearing it like on the chins? And sometimes people get suffocated and they take it off for a few minutes and they put it back. And at the same time, I'm looking at some of my friends who are on the movie set. So they're simultaneously. I think I don't know the exact amount, but I think there's quite many film productions resuming right now as we speak. And sometimes I see the photos, on social media, and then they're taking photos and set, and I see people are not doing the protocols like I'm doing. So I was like, are you guys sure that's okay? Like stuff like that. So sometimes I'm getting a bit paranoid, but at least I do my best in the environment I can control. Like in my own production, we're really very we're trying rigidly to enforce the rules about health and safety, about the protocols of the COVID-19.
Yeah. Okay, Mas. That's good to hear. So you're really concerned about the safety and healthy protocol, not only for yourself but also for the whole of your crew, right?
Yeah, we
Because
do. We do tests. We do periodic tests before the shoot. We do the rapid test, and then also the swab test if needed. And then after 2 weeks, we do another test, and so we have a certain periods where we need to redo the test and so forth. So yeah, it's quite serious. I mean, we're trying our best to enforce it.
oh yeah, okay, yes, it's a good thing to know that you really take care the healthy of your crew, Mas. Thank you for that. Okay, Mbak Santi.
Yeah, taking
Yeah,
care of
sorry,
myself
sorry,
is
Mas.
it's
Yeah,
okay.
sorry, Mas. Go ahead, Mas. Okay,
No, no, no.
thank you,
I'm
Mas.
just saying it's if you put it that way, that sounds so heroic. Whereas I'm taking care of myself actually, so it's okay. It's not that.
Yeah,
It's not that dramatic.
Yes,
but still, Mas, thank you.
Next,
Yeah,
aku
Mbak
aku mau
Santi.
nanya deh
Yeah,
sama Ernest.
yeah,
Since you're the one who is now resuming the production, as
yes.
producer, kamu jadinya apakah numbers of the crew kamu kurangin, juga tentunya pasti kan hari syuting jadi nambah. Tapi I mean, aku pengen tahu aja kamu jadi gimana ininya, like the tactics you're taking.
Yeah, for the number of the crew, it's really hard to reduce the number of the crews because the department chiefs would be would object because they would hinder their work. So what we
Yeah.
did in terms of what changes is that the number of people on set, Mas
I
Arfi.
remember,
Jadi,
yes.
yeah, so usually we have all the art people and the camera people setting the set together, right? So they're like ambushing the set and then scramble everything to get it ASAP. But now we have to go in on turns. So
Yeah.
we do the art first, and then the props get okay, all good, okay, and then the camera do all, and then maybe if there's some adjustment needed, and then they go back in. Sometimes when we're like in the middle of a rush, we do scramble, but most of the time we try hard to maintain the discipline so that there are less people on especially on sets where it is indoors. We get extra paranoid where when we are doing indoors. So standby crew are lessened. Standby crew. So if you can let's say for costume and makeup, if you can lessen the standby crew, maybe the rest can wait outside the perimeter. So we create like a ring one area and then the second area. So forth. Yeah. It's every time we're not in a rush or we're still on schedule. It's a very feasible thing to do. But when you're like behind on schedule when you keep looking on the call sheet, it's really hard to enforce the things when people are like running all over the place. It's really, really challenging.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mbak Santi. Hi, Mbak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi.
The question for you is, as an executive producer, you take on the role of preparing the budget for film production. How does the new normal impact the budget of your future productions? Do you think the budget increase will reach 20%, 30%, or even greater than that?
Well, I think it's based on the story itself. I think like misalnya kayak filmnya Mas Joko gitu, like Gundala kan need higher numbers of crew kan, pasti impact-nya pasti lebih besar gitu dibanding film-film dengan cerita yang membutuhkan kru lebih sedikit gitu. So I think it's really based on the creative that we translated into a budget. But in general, I think it will like 10 to 15%. I think the budget will akan impacted. I think we already calculated actually.
Okay, so I'm going to translate Mbak Santi answer. She said that it depends on the story itself. For example, Bang Joko's movie, like superhero movie, usually involves lots of actors and all the stuff. So that's why the budget will be increased higher. But for Mbak Santi herself, she thinks that the budget will increase around 10-15%, yeah, Mbak? 10-15%.
Yeah, 10% at most, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Around 10-15%. Okay, thank you, Mbak Santi, and thank you all the speakers. That's the end of our first part of these discussions. Now it's time to take questions from audiences. And Nadi, my friend, the co-moderator, will take over. Go ahead, Nadi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anika. That was a great discussion overall. Thank you so much for the panelists. It was a great insights. So over the span of the first part, me and my team and I have collected a few questions from our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, Instagram also. The first question is actually directed to Scott. So the person that asked the question is Stanley Chandra. He's a journalist from Kabari, the magazine. So his question is, animation is often overlooked within the film industry, and yet it is the most thriving one right now, the most thriving one during this pandemic. Is this maybe a time for the world of animation to lead in terms of the way the movie industry should work?
You know, animation is unique into itself, and I don't know if what animation does translate directly into live action sets. But I do know that we're very fortunate in animation that we are able to continue to make content right now, and be able to work and come up with stories for the world. You know, so I feel very fortunate in that way.
Yeah, because I feel like people are now more creative in terms of creating content, especially in animation, because they're just stuck at home. Is the only tools they have is their computers, and I feel like now it's time for animations to take over. And then thank you, Scott, for the answer. And then let's see. Second questions is from, let's see, Asram Sharifat, who's a filmmaker. The question is, with all the setbacks caused by the pandemic, do you see any new creative solutions and opportunity in the film industry because of the new normal? The question doesn't have a person to direct to, so I'm gonna give this question to Bang Joko. Bang, do you see any creative solution and opportunity in the film industry because of the new normal?
Uh, I think there will be some people who will be trying to um, find a way to tell a story that is adapting to the current situation. There is a film on Shudder, a horror film called Host. It's it's a film about a, a group of people doing Zoom meeting, and the story was told very cleverly, and it was very effective horror film. And it's very effective because it's of course the writing is very good, but they are they made a film that is very relatable to a lot of people in this situation. So the content itself is relevant, and the way the film was made was also adaptive to this situation. So I think it's a good thing. But I think there are still a lot of people who are still trying to do films before the pandemic began, and I think it's okay too, as long as we follow the health protocol. Of course, in some scenes, the script has to be adjusted, like I previously stated. That probably if we use a lot of people, if we use, if we make a lot of scenes requiring skin to skin contact or close contact between actors, that has to be adjusted if you cannot find a way to make it safe. For instance, probably you put all the actors in one place, you quarantine them, and then before you do that, you do health check, etc., etc. So I think yes, some people will adapt to it. Some people will also try to make films the way they tell films before the pandemic, with the adjustment with the health protocol.
Yeah, that's nice to hear because right now with all the lockdown, everyone only have like Zoom or any digital like connection through WhatsApp. And you're right, like some people would use that and take advantage of that and create something creative and post it on YouTube and they get views and stuff like that. What about Mas Ernest? What do you think? You think there's gonna be new opportunities or creative solutions because of the new normal?
I think it's very interesting to have Scott here. Where one of the things that we are talking about right now is the release or the soon to be released Disney Plus in Indonesia. I think it's going to change. It's going to affect us. It's going to impact us greatly. The sheer size of Disney and its catalog and its a capital and everything. It will bring something fresh and different. I think it's going to somehow shift because I've been reading for the last few days, been reading about the Mulan release, which is going to be straight to OTT, which is something very a bit mind-boggling for me. It's going to have a new experience of having a new movie released straight to your home, not to the cinemas. I think somehow it's going to affect us in a more positive light. It's going to bring a lot of more opportunities. It's going to bring a lot of they will need, I think, Disney and any other OTTs coming to Indonesia would need a lot of content, which means a lot of opportunities for filmmakers in Indonesia to create. So I think maybe it's one of the things that can be can help, you know, if we don't know when the cinema is going to recover in Indonesia, we can't know for sure. We don't know. We don't even know when they're going to reopen. For now, is it going to be September? Is it going to be later on? We don't know yet. So I think the growth of OTT, especially the Disney entering Indonesian market, is a breath of fresh air for us. It gives us new opportunities to create. So yeah, it's if you want to stay positive, there's always things to be excited about, I guess.
I think personally, I think it's smart that Disney decided Mulan to be streaming online because in the long term, these people gonna subscribe to the platform and then they're gonna be, a member, and then it's gonna be good for the long term. And
It's
then,
going
okay,
to be a
let's move on to the
very
next.
it's going to
Yeah.
be a very exciting study case for us, the Indonesian filmmakers, because one of the reason I said that is the pricing point as well. It's quite an expensive movie. It's $30, if I'm not mistaken, 29.9, which is 400,000 something for a movie. It's interesting to see what will happen in this market.
Okay, got it. So next question, it's from J Love Games. Okay, the question is, do you have any advice for Indonesian aspiring filmmakers trying to make it in the film industry in Indonesia? Mas Riri Riza, do you have any advice for aspiring filmmakers to make it in Indonesia?
Well, there are lots of ways to start. You know, make your short films, for example, is a very good way to start now. Show your sensibilities in storytelling, and at the same time, you don't need too much of like a technical uh, uh, supports that will cost you a lot. So that is a way, but definitely you need to be very aware of where the cinema uh, develop into at the same time to make your work unique and interesting. At the same time, also, I think you need to make a good network with the Indonesian film industry, and there are lots of ways now. Uh, uh, Webinars, Zoom discussion, workshops over virtual workshop is happening almost every week now, and show up and make networks. So I think creativity and network is something that's very important in any film industry in any part of the world.
I couldn't agree more. And then I think the question also has Hollywood in it. So I want to throw this question to Scott. Scott, do you have any advice for aspiring young Indonesian filmmakers that wants to make it in Hollywood?
I think something that in my experience is very much in the front end of filmmaking and not physical production. So it's always about story to me, and I feel like Indonesians, it's such a diverse group of people, so expansive, so many different experiences, and I think everyone is unique, and I think lean into that specificity in your experience, in your voice, and see what are those stories and what's the angle that you are going to provide that's different than what's out there right now. Lean into those characters and those situations to see what kind of story you could tell and what lens you could put in films that hasn't been seen yet.
Yeah, it's true. Story is always the money maker. So let's see. I want to check the time right now. I think we're still good for two more questions. Okay, we have a question from Yafi Fairuz. Oh, it's the host. The question is, has the local government released any guidelines on movie sets, or is it the house production responsibility to look after everyone's safety? I want to throw this question to Mbak Santi. Mbak Santi.
Yes. Yeah, well, actually, government has already made a conjunction between two ministry, um, protocols for creative industry, and one of them is absolutely how are the filmmakers film production should be made. But I think, in my opinion, it's still like a very general protocol. So, and I believe every film company and producers has already also set up their own protocols for their own production, as well as as in IDN Pictures.
What about are they supportive of these filmmakers to go back to work, or are they more reluctant to let you guys come back to work?
Uh, Well, since they already released the protocol, so I think it's like it's a green light to start the production. Like Ernest has already starting his own, but I think that it's like it's only like a general protocol. So it's very important for every producers to also set their own standard of SOP for conducting the production in this situation.
Nice. Gotcha. Thank you,
Mhm.
Mbak Sandy. Okay, next question. We have question for Bang Joko Anwar. The question is from Daphne from UCLA. Her question is, in one of your media statements, you said that your team is working with many CGI vendors. Does the new normal change the way you organize them?
Working with CGI vendors, no, I think it's pretty much the same because um, the way CGI vendors work, they work within their own environment in the office. So we send them materials and they will send us previews, and then either we have notes and some revision that they have to do, and they send back to us. So I think it's still the same.
Because I'm pretty sure right now you're working not with only one CGI vendor, but you're working with a lot of vendors right now. So, okay, let's see. I have a lot of questions. Hmm, let's see. The next question is this is from Anindita Salsabila. Hi, a bit of an OTT question, but I was wondering whether this whole pandemic situation would be a good opportunity to introduce our screen culture history through old films. Mas Riri, can you answer that?
Introduce our, sorry, can you rephrase the question again?
Uh,
Can you?
is wondering whether this whole pandemic situation would be a good opportunity to introduce our screen's culture history through old films.
Hmm. I think definitely the OTT, which is developed and become very successful at this time of pandemic, is a very very good windows to introduce more and more of our film, our history of cinema. We have. I definitely believe we have some classics that worth to introduce internationally, globally. And I think what we need is probably a little bit more work in promoting these films or film culture. We have 2 months. There has been a lot of deals happening between producers and For example, some platforms like Netflix or Disney Plus or CatchPlay, which is introducing Indonesian film not only for the local market but also for regional and also international market. It's very good opportunity to take on. But at the same time, also, I think this is a good way to introduce more ethical production. This is something that I think for film producers, filmmakers, for the last maybe year or two, we've introduced, for example, more ethical way to work. In terms of, for example, the time frame of production, environmental approach in production. All crews now bringing their own tumblers, for example, to bring ethical behavior between genders, for example. This is with this current situation where we all become very aware of how to work because of the protocol. I think we also need to introduce more ethical way of working in the film set, in the film production. So I hope this is also an opportunity since we all become, you know, I've been working with child actors in the children films, for example, and we always uh, try to manage our crew not to smoke on set, for example. Smoking is not allowed. You have to behave the way you behave on set because of children. We've been working with indigenous community. So I think it's a good way also to remember that in terms of the situation we have now.
I agree with you. Like this in this current times, people need to be more effective and efficient. When it comes to working. And also, I just watched one of your movie, on Netflix, North America, Soup. It's a really great movie, and thank you for that. And the next question, I have one for Mbak Susanti. As a
Yeah.
woman in a male-dominated industry, do you often feel like people undermine your achievements?
Well, I try not to feel that way because well, I try not to feel that way, and I think it's important for other women filmmaker to feel the same way, because now I believe our community, Indonesian filmmaker, um, like Mas Riri just said, we already like starting to establish like a better uh, working environment. And also specifically in my production, um, I I tend to work with women filmmaker also. Well, but still the number are still bigger the male, but I when I work with both male and female crew or cast, I don't feel any different quality from them based on their roles, etc. Um, so for me, luckily, I never feel undermined by being a female, and I hope my other colleagues also won't have that kind of experience. And for me, if there's something happen in my production, I I I I uh, I will take it seriously. If there's something happen during my production, like that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mbak.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm gonna check time. I think we're still good, right? I believe so. Okay, next question. It's for I think it's for everyone. In the midst of the pandemic, uh, how do you guys promote your upcoming projects? Because it's really hard to promote now. You only have to rely on digital platforms. Let's start with Bang Joko. Bang, how would you promote how differently you would promote your project now?
Do you mean promote projects after they're done for marketing?
Yes.
Well, we have not we have not done any promotion and marketing activities for films since the pandemic began, actually, because um, we were just going to shoot it. But I think um, in many cases in Indonesia, the marketing tools that is most effective is the internet, through social media, mostly. So I think, of course, there are things that we have to cut down. There are some events we usually do off air, offline. I mean, like the press conference, the meet and greet, and cinema visit. But I think it's not going to hurt very much, because we can always we can always change our focus on online marketing. So I think it's still okay.
Okay, I want to pivot this question to Scott. What about you, Scott? Do you guys have anything finished coming up, like something need to be promoted in the upcoming months or so?
Yeah, so
And if
our,
so,
our release date is March. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
if so, how differently would it be now to promote your project or your upcoming project?
Well, for Raya, it comes out in March of next year, and we are going to actually have an announcement pretty soon coming out. So look out for that. That'll be coming out very shortly. In terms of what we're doing different, I think right now we're still under the hopes that we are going to release this movie traditionally in theaters. But in terms of like how we're changing marketing, budgets, and all that sort of thing, it's kind of out of my purview, unfortunately.
It's okay, no problem. While we're on you, Scott, previously I asked Mbak Santi about the Indonesian government, how they reached her about guidelines and precautions about creating movies. What about yourself in the U.S.? How would the government have been responding, or like have they reached to you guys about guidelines and so for creating movies?
For animation, Disney it's everyone in the same building, and so the government restrictions that impact us are letting us get back into the building. When can we all work together under one roof again?
I guess animation would be different than physical, like a movie where they have different settings and stuff like that. Gotcha. Let's see.
Yeah.
I think I will go with one more question. We have a lot of questions from the audience here in front. Let's see. You guys can go ahead, ask questions among yourself if you guys want. Like, feel free, guys.
And
Okay, I have another question for Scott. Since you have previously worked on quite a lot of Asian and Pacific Islander animation theme, like Moana and also Kung Fu Panda, is there any difference in the way you approach the theme compared to, let's say, Ralph Breaks the Internet?
Well, at Walt Disney Animation Studios, the making of these movies always starts with research. And so, especially when you have a person of color on screen as your protagonist, and in a world where it's people of color, then we want to be very responsible and make really smart decisions in the way that we're going to do that. And so the way that the studios found to do that successfully is to really dive into the research. And it's both with academics and experts within the field, but really kind of create that network of people that are going to be able to help support and enrich the story that you're trying to tell. So I think that's one of the major ways that it changes.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Scott. And I think that would conclude our Q&A session. I would like to say thank you for everyone, for all the panelists, Mas Riri, Bang Joko, Mas Ernest, Mbak Sandy,
You.
Scott. Thank you so much. Hope
Thank you.
everyone
Thank you.
please
Thank you.
stay safe and be well. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
everyone.
That will conclude our program. Thank you so much for everyone. Please visit our social media accounts to see more information about our future events. And I would like, before we finish our program, I would like to thank all the sponsors that supported our programs: the UCLA Center of Southeast Asian Studies, the Indonesian Consulate in Los Angeles, the USC School of Cinematic Arts, the Indonesian Bruin Student Association, Permias Nasional, and the biggest applause to the Creative Box team for their technology partnership for our discussion.
And also join us for the next discussion series number 2 on September 18th at the same time with the topic of innovative movie marketing and promotion strategies in the new normal. Also, don't forget to follow and like our social media account, YouTube and Facebook Los Angeles Indonesian Film Festival, and Twitter and Instagram at LAIFF_org. I think that is for today's discussions. Thank you. Have a good day, Jakarta, and have a good night, Los Angeles. And I'll see you next month. Bye bye.
This is Bye.